Salesforce acquires Informatica. What this means for AI trust. There's a quiet reckoning underway in enterprise software, and it's not happening in the splashy demos of GenAI copilots. It's unfolding where most AI dreams go to die, the data layer. Salesforce has entered into a definitive agreement to acquire Informatica for approximately $8 billion in equity value, net of Salesforce's current investment in Informatica. Per the press release, holders of Informatica's Class A and Class B, one common stock will receive $25 in cash per share. This marks the company's largest transaction since its acquisition of Slack for $27.7 billion in 2021 and underscores a renewed appetite for big-ticket acquisitions to shore up platform gaps in the GenAI era. Once closed, this deal will fold one of the last major independent enterprise data integration and governance providers directly into the Salesforce stack. But this isn't just a financial play. It's a strategic recalibration. Salesforce isn't buying Informatica to add another product. It's acquiring the one thing its AI and CRM ambitions can no longer afford to outsource: the scaffolding of trust. Because here's the truth: if your data isn't governed, your AI isn't grounded. And if your CRM isn't built on clean, compliant, lineage-aware data, your customer intimacy is little more than theater. Informatica, once typecast as ETL plumbing, now sits at the center of some of the hardest problems in enterprise AI: zero trust data sharing, metadata lineage, regulatory-grade privacy controls, and a stitching together of hybrid and multi-cloud estates. And Salesforce? It needs every bit of that muscle. As the world's largest CRM provider races to turn its data cloud and Einstein into the de facto platform for customer-facing AI, this deal signals a deeper strategic pivot. It's not enough to surface insights. You have to explain them, govern them, trace them, prove them in court if needed. And that's precisely what Informatica brings to the table. For enterprise decision-makers, CIOs staring down AI hallucination risks, CISOs dreading shadow pipelines, and CFOs tracking compliance exposure, the implications are massive. When your CRM vendor starts owning the compliance engine under your data stack, it's no longer just a platform discussion. It's a shift in control, a redistribution of power. Greyhound standpoint. At Greyhound Research, we believe this isn't just another acquisition. It's a signal that enterprise control, capability, and trust are converging at the data governance layer. Salesforce is no longer content to consume clean data. It wants to own how it's cleaned, secured, and made AI-ready. And that changes everything. What Salesforce is really buying: control over the AI trust layer. Let's not mistake this for another tuck-in integration. With the acquisition of Informatica, Salesforce is playing a deeper, more deliberate game. This is about control of the data pipelines, the compliance scaffolding, and, most crucially, the trust signals that power GenAI. While Salesforce has spent the last 2 years sharpening its AI story through Einstein and Data Cloud, what it's lacked is ownership of the upstream validation layer. That's the piece Informatica brings: AI explainability at scale. It's not just about cleaning data. It's about proving its lineage, enforcing its governance, and making it defensible under regulatory scrutiny. This acquisition speaks directly to a pattern we've heard in recent Greyhound field notes from global data platform leaders across financial services, telecom, and pharma. Many are contending with rising board-level pressure to show that their AI initiatives are compliance-aware by design, not as a patchwork of afterthought controls. One CTO at a global pharma firm put it bluntly: "We can't keep retrofitting governance into platforms that weren't built for accountability." The sentiment is clear: data readiness isn't a tooling issue anymore. It's a leadership liability, and the timing couldn't be sharper. According to Greyhound CIO Pulse 2025, 64% of global CIOs cite lack of data governance as the top reason they've delayed AI scaling. It's not that these leaders doubt AI's promise. It's that they doubt their vendor's control over its plumbing. Informatica's value here goes well beyond EDL. It's the connective tissue across fragmented data estates, public cloud buckets, SAP vaults, Oracle lakes, that Salesforce desperately needs to stitch together. More importantly, it's the key to unlocking regulated verticals like BFSI, healthcare, and government, where audit trails aren't a feature, they're a mandate. Informatica's MDM and privacy-aware orchestration engines aren't just technical wins. They're what makes Salesforce credible in boardroom conversations about AI risk. This is the move that lets Salesforce stop asking enterprises to trust its data readiness and start showing its work. Greyhound standpoint. At Greyhound Research, we believe real strategy reveals itself not in what's acquired, but in what gets rewired beneath the surface. Salesforce isn't buying Informatica to tick a capability box. It's repositioning itself as the system of record for trust in the AI era. And that shifts the conversation from CRM innovation to governance authority. What changes for buyers as Informatica enters the Salesforce fold? For many Salesforce customers, this acquisition won't come as a surprise. It will come as validation. For years, they've been asked to scale AI ambitions using a data stack stitched together across third-party tools, ungoverned APIs, and fragmented pipelines. This deal signals that Salesforce is ready to own the plumbing, not just the interface. Informatica brings the backbone these customers have lacked: policy-based data orchestration, intelligent lineage, zero-trust sharing, and metadata-first integration. The prospect of embedding this capability into Salesforce's Einstein and Data Cloud isn't just additive, it's foundational. Customers tired of retrofitting compliance controls after the fact may finally see a coherent path toward trust by design AI. But that coherence comes with conditions. Greyhound field notes from a multinational telecom reveal a common anxiety. We welcome tighter integration, but we need it to stay modular. If this becomes a lock-in play, we'll lose the flexibility we fought hard to build. That duality between platform simplicity and architectural sovereignty is the heart of what changes for buyers now. Salesforce's acquisition of Informatica also disrupts long-standing assumptions around integration neutrality. Informatica has historically operated as a neutral bridge across clouds and core systems, connecting AWS, Azure, Oracle, SAP, and more. That status is now being questioned. Some competitors told Greyhound Research in confidence that their marketing and sales teams are planning to frame this as the end of Informatica's agnostic stance, while some integration-focused vendors plan to actively position themselves as independence-first alternatives. According to Greyhound CIO Pulse 2025, 72% of enterprise technology leaders cite lack of end-to-end data governance as the top friction point in scaling AI across the enterprise. In contrast, buyers of specialized data governance platforms, particularly in regulated sectors such as banking and life sciences, have long prioritized solutions with strict separation of duties and ecosystem-neutral architecture. As these two governance models converge through acquisition, some enterprise teams will see new synergy. Others may experience strategic compromise. This move unlocks undeniable upside for customers already embedded in the Salesforce ecosystem. Enterprises using Marketing Cloud, Tableau, MuleSoft, and Einstein now stand to benefit from natively governed, AI-ready data flows, without relying on a patchwork of third-party integrations. For IT and data teams under pressure to deliver faster AI outcomes without compromising on lineage or compliance. This could be the architectural alignment they've been asking for. Informatica leadership has since reassured customers that the platform will continue to support hybrid and multi-cloud environments, and that its core interoperability commitments will remain intact. But even with those assurances, enterprise buyers will likely revisit how their future flexibility, pricing leverage, and procurement autonomy are affected once governance becomes a built-in feature rather than a separable control layer. Greyhound standpoint. At Greyhound Research, we believe every acquisition changes code, but the bigger shift is in who owns risk and resilience. Salesforce is offering customers a more governed path to AI, but it also consolidates architectural power. CIOs must now ask, where does control end, and where does convenience begin? What this deal signals for the broader enterprise technology ecosystem. Salesforce's acquisition of Informatica will ripple far beyond CRM and data integration. For the broader enterprise ecosystem, platform competitors, implementation partners, hyperscalers, and regulators, this move disrupts a long-standing equilibrium. The assumption that integration tooling could remain vendor-neutral territory. For decades, Informatica earned trust by sitting between stacks, connecting SAP to Azure, Snowflake to AWS, and Oracle to Google Cloud. It was the connective tissue that allowed enterprises to stitch together cloud strategies without picking sides. As mentioned in the previous section, that neutrality is now under reconsideration. With Salesforce taking the helm, competitors are planning to seize the narrative shift. Independent data integration platforms plan to publicly reposition themselves as vendor-agnostic alternatives, calling out what they see as a clear alignment of Informatica with Salesforce's architectural and commercial interests. This change will definitely prompt recalibration across the partner landscape. Greyhound field notes from the past 24 hours capture how implementation partners, especially in integration-heavy markets like Southeast Asia and the Middle East, are rethinking their go-to-market alliances. One executive at a global data consultancy noted, "Every time a major platform vendor buys a governance engine, we lose a little more leverage as integrators. The ecosystem shrinks with every merger." That sentiment is matched by unease among cloud providers and platform competitors. As Informatica's connectors, governance rules, and metadata engines become embedded within the Salesforce stack, there are questions about whether competing platforms will retain the same access and neutrality they once did. According to Greyhound CIO Pulse 2025, 58% of enterprise technology leaders globally now classify vendor concentration of data governance capabilities as a Tier 1 architectural risk when building their AI platforms. That concern is most acute in highly regulated sectors such as insurance, energy, and healthcare, industries where Informatica has long been the preferred governance partner precisely because it operated independently from cloud and SaaS vendors. Regulators are also expected to take note. While this deal does not trigger the same immediate scrutiny as consumer-facing M&A, the overlap between Salesforce's existing MuleSoft unit and Informatica's core integration functions has raised questions about future concentration in enterprise data flows. The acquisition's impact on pricing, interoperability, and long-term platform dependency could surface in regulatory reviews, especially in regions already tightening oversight of hyperscaler dominance and vendor lock-in. But perhaps most importantly, this acquisition reframes what enterprise buyers and partners now define as safe. Safe isn't just about uptime or SLAs anymore. It's about control. It's about optionality. It's about whether your orchestration layer works for your enterprise goals or someone else's go-to-market strategy. Greyhound standpoint. At Greyhound Research, we believe this isn't just competitive posturing. It redefines what safe, neutral, or standard now means in enterprise strategy. Salesforce isn't just acquiring Informatica. It's asserting that data trust must be embedded, not inferred. And that forces every vendor, partner, and policymaker to rethink the new architecture of confidence. Salesforce's acquisition track record, how integration has played out before. To understand what Salesforce might do with Informatica, it's instructive to revisit how it's handled prior high-profile acquisitions. Over the last decade, Salesforce has expanded aggressively beyond CRM through strategic takeovers of platforms like MuleSoft, Tableau, and Slack. Each deal came with a promise to simplify, unify, and innovate. What followed was a more complex story, one that reveals recurring themes of product overlap, sales-driven bundling, roadmap realignment, and a redefinition of customer experience. MuleSoft, acquired in 2018 for $6.5 billion, was Salesforce's play to own the integration tier. In its early days post-acquisition, MuleSoft showed strong revenue growth, serving both internal Salesforce use cases and broader enterprise integration needs. But integration didn't always go smoothly. As MuleSoft became more deeply embedded within Salesforce's selling motion, many Greyhound Research end-user customers reported increased pricing pressure and oversold capabilities. In Greyhound field notes from enterprise architects across financial services and retail, several noted that the promise of clicks not code integrations frequently gave way to complex implementations requiring premium services. Internally, Salesforce's own teams reportedly used MuleSoft to stitch together acquisitions, a sign of its power, but also a sign of the complexity end customers would inherit. Tableau's $15.7 billion acquisition in 2019 told a different story, one centered on analytics and community. Salesforce initially kept Tableau at arm's length, respecting its developer ecosystem and visual analytics legacy. But within a year, Tableau was recast. Einstein Analytics became Tableau CRM, product teams were merged, and roadmap control shifted toward platform alignment. While Salesforce native customers appreciated better connectivity to CRM data and predictive models, longtime Tableau users noted slower innovation in core visualization features and growing frustration with support. Greyhound Pulse data confirms that enterprise Tableau users have increasingly cited stagnation and commercial friction in renewal cycles, especially as Salesforce leaned into bundling Tableau within larger CX deals. Then came Slack. Acquired in 2021 for $27.7 billion, it was Salesforce's most audacious move, framed as the creation of a digital HQ. The integration strategy was bold. Bring CRM workflows into Slack, turn cases into swarms, and turn approvals into Slack threads. But customers quickly saw that what was promised as seamless often remained layered. Slack retained much of its core product independence, a decision that won praise from Slack loyalists but muted the upside for deeply embedded Salesforce clients. Meanwhile, aggressive enterprise-wide licensing models and Slack GPT upsells introduced new concerns around cost structure and deployment flexibility. By the time Slack's founding CEO departed and the Future Form initiative was shuttered, many in the market sensed a cultural misfit beneath the product harmony. Slack's reliability never faltered, but its roadmap shifted subtly, and its innovation tempo slowed under Salesforce stewardship. Across these acquisitions, one pattern recurs. Salesforce excels at vision, but struggles with operational balance. It brings acquired products into its platform orbit with speed, but often at the expense of neutrality, modularity, or customer control. Integration is prioritized, but not always realized in the way customers expect. Roadmaps bend towards Salesforce priorities. Licensing structures evolve to favor bundled expansion. And support? It often becomes more centralized, more templated, and less responsive to the nuances of each product's original base. There have been success stories, particularly for customers already deep in the Salesforce ecosystem. For them, MuleSoft accelerates orchestration, Tableau offers embedded insights, and Slack activates cross-functional workflows. But for those who adopted these products for their independence, pricing flexibility, or differentiated culture, Salesforce's acquisition model has introduced friction, not freedom. This is the backdrop against which the Informatica deal must be understood. Salesforce is no stranger to bold moves, but its integration playbook has consistently required customers to trade optionality for convenience and innovation autonomy for architectural coherence. As Informatica folds into the platform, enterprise buyers will be watching closely for support continuity, for product clarity, and most of all, for whether this acquisition delivers long-term trust or merely short-term alignment. Greyhound standpoint. At Greyhound Research, we believe Informatica will not just be judged on its standalone capabilities, but on how Salesforce integrates, prioritizes, and evolves those capabilities across the platform. Past acquisitions reveal the risks. It's now up to Salesforce to prove it has learned from them. Patterns of promise and risk. 5 enterprise realities to keep in view. Salesforce doesn't just acquire products, it absorbs categories. And with every acquisition, it brings the promise of tighter integration, unified data, and simplified vendor management. But those promises often come with structural trade-offs that enterprise buyers have seen repeat, reshape, and resurface deal after deal. Informatica will not be exempt. One/integration is always marketed as seamless. It rarely is. Salesforce speaks the language of synergy. MuleSoft was supposed to make integration painless. Tableau was to bring embedded analytics to every corner of CRM. Slack would turn every workflow into a channel. In practice, integration comes in waves, connectors, templates, APIs, and eventually platform hooks. But the early experience often remains disjointed. For customers, the cost isn't just technical debt, it's delivery debt. What looked pre-integrated in demos often shows up half-wired in production. 2/pricing clarity gives way to licensing complexity. The moment a product enters Salesforce's commercial architecture, simplicity is lost. MuleSoft introduced tiered API bundles and capacity-driven escalators. Tableau's pricing evolved with new SKUs and rebranded modules. Slack's AI features arrived with seat-based upsells and wall-to-wall enterprise licensing pressures. The outcome is predictable. What was once transparent becomes strategically bundled. Discounts are negotiated across products, and penalties are hidden in platform consolidation clauses. Customers that don't audit licensing deeply often find themselves paying more for capabilities they can't fully isolate or opt out of. 3/product innovation tilts toward the platform, not the user. Before their acquisitions, Slack, Tableau, and MuleSoft had distinct innovation cultures. They prioritize community feedback, iterative feature development, and usability. Post-acquisition, roadmap gravity shifts. Features that serve Salesforce's platform narrative, like cross-cloud hooks, AI layering, or customer 360 integration, get resourced first. Usability refinements, edge case features, or ecosystem-neutral capabilities take a backseat. Innovation doesn't disappear, it just reprioritizes. And for customers not anchored in Salesforce's stack, that shift can feel like drift. For support quality often declines, and accountability blurs. Each acquired company came with its own service DNA. MuleSoft's pre-sales architects, Tableau's forum-savvy community team, Slack's fast, no-friction response model. Under Salesforce, these services are centralized and standardized. Enterprise support becomes slower, more transactional, and increasingly reliant on premier packages. Meanwhile, as more products are bundled, it becomes harder to know which team owns which problem. CIOs have reported support tickets bouncing between teams. What used to be solved in a Slack DM or Tableau forum thread becomes a week-long case escalation through the Salesforce portal. 5/independence erodes. Strategic leverage follows. Customers adopt tools like Informatica, Tableau, and MuleSoft because of their flexibility, neutrality, and ecosystem breadth. Once under Salesforce, that neutrality becomes qualified. Will Informatica continue integrating equally across AWS, Azure, and GCP? Will non-Salesforce customers get equal roadmap priority? Experience says probably not. Platform gravity pulls inward. Integration pathways will be preserved for now. But the deeper risk isn't technical, it's commercial. As Informatica gets absorbed, customers may lose not just optionality, but the leverage to demand it. These 5 patterns don't reflect product failure. They reflect platform intent. Salesforce is not mismanaging its acquisitions. It's executing a strategy. One where consolidation enables monetization and centralization is framed as simplification. For customers, the only protection is awareness. To engage with Salesforce's integrated future, enterprise leaders must understand what's likely to repeat and prepare to navigate those realities with eyes wide open. Greyhound standpoint. At Greyhound Research, we believe every acquisition from Salesforce is an architectural negotiation. Informatica may enhance the stack, but it will also reshape the surface area of risk, control, and cost. The promises are real. So are the patterns. The post-acquisition toolkit, defending enterprise control as Salesforce and Informatica converge. When a platform vendor like Salesforce buys a company like Informatica, it doesn't just consolidate product lines, it redraws the boundaries of trust, control, and accountability. For Salesforce customers, this acquisition extends the stack further downward into governance. For Informatica customers, it lifts their core data infrastructure into a CRM-led orbit. Either way, the rules are about to change. This toolkit is built for enterprise leaders on both sides, those embedded in Salesforce's platform and those running Informatica across multi-cloud and heterogeneous environments. It draws on patterns from previous Salesforce acquisitions like MuleSoft, Tableau, and Slack to offer 5 practical moves to help defend your enterprise posture while the integration story unfolds. 1/segment your architectural stack before Salesforce does it for you. Salesforce is an expert at integration through bundling. Once Informatica's services become native to Data Cloud and Einstein, overlapping tools will be labeled redundant. Whether you use Informatica for metadata management, lineage tracing, or data masking, now is the time to audit where it overlaps and where it outperforms Salesforce native tools like MuleSoft, Shield, and Data Cloud policies. Document which pieces of your data governance framework must remain neutral or decoupled, and flag what should not be handed over, even if bundling incentives appear. Because once it's inside the CRM perimeter, clawing it back is hard. 2/negotiate licensing by capability, not by platform label. One consistent pattern across Tableau and MuleSoft was the shift from capability-based licensing to platform-driven packaging. Customers found themselves paying for premium tiers that were pre-assembled for Salesforce's convenience, not the customer's actual consumption pattern. For Informatica users, this is a red flag. Pre-existing license models may be rebranded, re-tiered, or repositioned under Salesforce's bundling logic. Before renewals hit, enterprises should map contracts not by product SKU, but by business capability, data cataloging, pipeline orchestration, privacy masking, and tie pricing expectations to those domains. For Salesforce buyers evaluating Informatica add-ons, ask for transparency on how capabilities scale independently of broader platform upgrades. 3/decouple support escalation from CRM workflows. Post-acquisition, support quality often trends towards centralization and cost efficiency. Slack, Tableau, and MuleSoft all saw their support models shift. More tiers, longer queues, and greater reliance on bundled premier success plans. To prepare, enterprises should ensure their support clauses are preserved or renegotiated before Informatica gets folded fully into Salesforce's hierarchy. For existing Salesforce customers, be explicit about escalation rights across acquired products. Don't assume that a premier plan for CRM automatically grants equal SLA treatment for Informatica modules. For Informatica customers, protect your current touchpoints and request clarity on who will own product-specific case routing and resolution in the new model. For assert your integration neutrality early and often. Salesforce's strategy with MuleSoft and Tableau has shown a clear pattern. Preserve cross-cloud compatibility in public messaging while incrementally optimizing the stack for Salesforce-first environments. If you rely on Informatica to govern data across AWS, Azure, Oracle, SAP, and beyond, this is the moment to go on record. In executive briefings, vendor QBRs, and RFPs, reinforce that Salesforce's platform relevance depends on Informatica maintaining equal commitment to non-Salesforce ecosystems. For Salesforce customers, flip the lens. Ask whether future Einstein or Data Cloud features will still allow you to plug in alternative governance engines, or whether the roadmap assumes Salesforce plus Informatica is the only path forward. 5. Protect your architectural optionality contractually. The most effective enterprise defenses aren't just architectural, they're contractual. For both Salesforce and Informatica customers, this means writing exit ramps into multi-year deals, pricing freezes, migration assistance, and clear licensing transition paths if capabilities are sunset or forcibly bundled. It also means introducing audit clauses around roadmap deviation and data portability. Salesforce excels at reducing friction on entry, but the real value lies in preserving leverage at exit. If Informatica becomes so embedded into Salesforce workflows that it's hard to untangle, you're already boxed in. The time to design your out clause is before you're deep in the stack. This isn't about rejecting integration. It's about resisting unexamined consolidation. Salesforce will market trust, productivity, and AI acceleration. Some of that will be real. But your responsibility as an enterprise buyer is to make sure that what accelerates your transformation doesn't quietly erode your control. Greyhound standpoint. At Greyhound Research, we believe platform integration and enterprise sovereignty aren't mutually exclusive, but only if customers defend the line early. As Salesforce and Informatica converge, the winning CIOs won't be those who resist change, but those who shape its terms. Enterprise CXO Playbook, 5 points to ponder. The previous section laid out tactical moves to help Salesforce and Informatica customers defend their autonomy as the two platforms converge. But tactics without reflection become reaction. As enterprise leaders prepare for what this integration will mean, not just at the API level, but at the boardroom level, strategic questions must take center stage. These 5 provocations are drawn from real-world anxieties we've seen in Greyhound field notes and CIO briefings. They're not abstract. They're already shaping renewal cycles, integration architecture, and AI governance debates across global enterprises. 1. When your integration vendor becomes a platform vendor, do you still own your architecture? Informatica was once the safe layer. Connective tissue trusted not to favor one cloud, one app, or one vendor. With Salesforce now in control, CIOs must re-examine how much neutrality remains. If your integration backbone is optimized for a single platform success, can your enterprise architecture stay truly cloud agnostic? 2. If your governance engine is bundled, where's your negotiation power? As data compliance becomes embedded into AI platforms, it also becomes harder to unbundle or independently audit. CISOs and CFOs must now consider, if governance is no longer a separate layer but a platform feature, who owns the rules? And what happens when vendors shift terms? 3. Can your multi-cloud story survive when connectors become opinions? Informatica helped enterprises abstract away cloud differences. That abstraction made a multi-cloud strategy possible. But if connectors evolve to favor Salesforce-first workflows, that story changes. CTOs must prepare for a world where multi-cloud isn't an architectural reality. It's a vendor marketing claim. For Slash, are your AI safeguards first-party promises or verified boundaries? When your CRM provider owns the governance tooling that shapes your AI's behavior, who takes the fall if an insight backfires or a regulatory flag is raised? Boards and legal teams need to understand whether explainability is a trust contract or a liability chain. 5. Is simplification quietly becoming standardization? Unified platforms promise speed, harmony, and efficiency, but they often erase optionality. What seems like simplification at the procurement level can feel like constraint at the engineering layer. Enterprise buyers must ask, are we streamlining operations or surrendering control? Greyhound standpoint. At Greyhound Research, we believe reflection is a strategic act. These questions aren't hypothetical. They're already shaping procurement, architecture, and governance conversations in every boardroom where trust meets transformation. The strategic reset, what this acquisition teaches us about the future. Enterprise trust doesn't collapse in a breach. It gets absorbed, redefined, and reissued in a buyout. This acquisition isn't just a pairing of capabilities. It's the convergence of 2 operating logics, one engineered to personalize engagement, the other to govern truth. And when those systems merge, The result isn't a product portfolio, it's a new power structure. We've seen this before. Acquisitions that promise simplification but deliver standardization. Platform expansions that widen capability but narrow choice. What changes with this one isn't the pattern, it's the awareness. This time, enterprise buyers are watching with a memory. Because trust isn't just a feature anymore, it's the frame. It dictates how systems are designed, how vendors are selected, and how accountability is architected. In a world where data governance shifts from function to foundation, buyers don't just inherit what's integrated, they absorb what's deprioritized. So this is the reset, not a collapse, a recalibration, a moment where enterprise leadership must decide. Will we treat trust as a vendor guarantee or a board-level mandate? At Greyhound Research, we believe this acquisition doesn't just redraw maps, it redefines mandates. Platform integration is no longer a roadmap line item. It's a governance event, and it will be the buyers who recognize that before the stack settles, who will lead the next wave of enterprise strategy. Analyst in focus, Sanchit Gogia. Sanchit Gogia, or SVG as he is popularly known, is a globally recognized technology analyst, innovation strategist, digital consultant, and board advisor. SVG is the chief analyst, founder and CEO of Greyhound Research, a global, award-winning technology research, advisory, consulting, and education firm. Greyhound Research works closely with global organizations, their CXOs, and the board of directors on technology and digital transformation decisions. SVG is also the founder and CEO of the House of Greyhound, an eclectic venture focusing on interdisciplinary innovation. Copyright policy. All content contained on the Greyhound Research website is protected by copyright law and may not be reproduced, distributed, transmitted, displayed, published, or broadcast without the prior written permission of Greyhound Research or, in the case of third-party materials, the prior written consent of the copyright owner of that content. You may not alter, delete, obscure, or conceal any trademark, copyright, or other notice appearing in any Greyhound Research content. We request our readers not to copy Greyhound Research content and not republish or redistribute them, in whole or partially, via emails or republishing them in any media, including websites, newsletters, or intranets. We understand that you may want to share this content with others, so we've added tools under each content piece that allow you to share the content. If you have any questions, please get in touch with our community relations team at connect@thofper.com.